So anyway, we're going to do essentially you've been hearing about the postcard bill. It's kind of attacking it from a bunch of different angles. You're going to have heard a lot of this before, so my part of this probably will not take nearly as long. Oh, we're already going? Oh, that's cool. So as you've heard by now, on August 20th, we sent out the certifications of value to the county assessor. You've already seen this slide, so we'll just move along. Why is this not working? We'll do this.
The little slideshow icon.
Yeah, I'm looking for a little slideshow icon.
Next to the minus sign, yes.
There. Oh, look at that.
I got you.
There, yeah, okay, all right. By September 5th, that's the deadline for the subdivisions. Provide the phone number, post tax request to the county clerk. So this is information that you can go ahead and harvest beforehand, really. I mean, and I think Jeff was talking about how it's not a bad idea to have, your budget hearings done and out of the way prior to anything else, this stuff in the clerk. That way, the number, all the information, you can get that there as soon as you can to the clerk. By September 10th, the clerk has to forward this information on to the assessor's office. So now I've got to go into a little bit of behind the scenes sort of stuff. So when this bill was first introduced, Bill 644 last year, Senator Hansen had a dream, and he said, well, I want everyone to get this big pink postcard in the mail. Now the reason is because we've had these conversations for the last several years in the legislature about, we want to have another hearing. We want to make sure the public has an opportunity to tell you to slow down these property taxes. How many of you heard people complaining about property taxes when you got campaigning? Nobody? Right, I thought so. And so one of the things that we frequently say, that schools frequently say, that community colleges, cities, everybody that has a tax request is, hey, look, we hold these hearings. The public does not show up. So Senator Hansen's idea is, well, if we put a big postcard in their mailbox, they're definitely going to show up. I'm not sure I agree, but for purposes of argument, he puts this in front of the Revenue Committee, it came out of the Revenue Committee. The bill itself, and I would tell Senator Hansen this, to his face, was unworkable, frankly. The bill just said, if your property tax request goes over a certain percentage, you have to send a pink postcard to everybody that's affected by it. I'm like, and there's no procedure, there's no process, there's nothing, no instructions on how to do this. So we're like, well, we testified against this. We said this bill's unworkable. It's not going to happen. Well, it comes whistling out of the Revenue Committee because the Revenue Committee in 2021 said there is no bill that's too bad for us to put on the legislature. So I think it comes whistling out of the committee. It's on the floor of the legislature. It gets scheduled pretty early on, and and we're lobbying against it. And the people the senators in the legislature that are generally fairly sympathetic to county government and to political subdivisions, when it comes to tax policy, we're pulling them out. You send your little message, and they come out, sure, remember this. And we're talking to folks that are generally sympathetic to us, and they're like, John, how do you vote against the transparency bill? I'm like, it's really not that transparent, but whatever. And so this thing was, there was a freight train behind it. We said, okay, we know this thing's gonna pass. We want to make it 10% less bad than it is. So I worked with Senator Hansen. I said, look, if you want this thing to go, here are the things that you need to do. And so he let me kind of, throw out his draft of the bill. He let me really work on what the language, what the verbiage should be. So I'm not, if you're angry, yes, a lot of this is stuff that I wrote. Believe me, it was a lot worse. What we tried to do, what I was trying to do is I was trying to make at least a procedure that we can go through that's going to be somewhat uniform, somewhat predictable. I know the time frame stinks, right? We know that values are certified on August 20th. We know we have to have the budgets done by September 30th, right? Not a lot of time there. So we worked with what we had, tried to come up with something. Now, here's what I'm going to tell you guys before I really get into this. So, you've had a question about, I've heard some people ask about the report. There's a reason we put that in there. I put that in there. And Senator Hansen looked at me very, very suspiciously and said, what's this all about? I said, Senator, we figured that we're not taking minutes. It's not an open meeting. We just want to have, a report so that the public knows what's going on, what's going on. We want to take attendance at it. He said, okay, that makes sense. Now, I may have been not entirely forthcoming with Senator Hansen. Please don't rat me out. The reason I wanted to do that is because we're going to take attendance. And 3 or 4 years from now, we're going to compare how many people we have show up at this hearing versus all our other hearings. Now, if we have the same amount of people that show up, we're gonna go to the legislature and say, hey, look, we've spent however many millions of dollars for producing these postcards on a statewide basis. This is an unfunded mandate, it's not producing any result we expected. Get rid of the law, right? That's why I put that in there. Now, however, there's a bet that we're taking here, right? Because in the past, it was like, here's what we're doing for the whole county, or the whole city, or the whole school district. Now people are gonna get this bright pink postcard in the mail, and it doesn't have to be pink. This bright pink postcard in the mail is gonna say, here's how much your taxes may or may not go up on an individual parcel level. Okay, that's probably gonna catch a few people's attention. We may get more people that show up at this joint public hearing. But if that's the case, we already know that no one's showing up to the budget hearing, we already know that no one's showing up to the property tax request hearing. If we actually have people showing up at the joint public hearing, I'm going to go to the legislature and say, hey, get rid of the other two. Let's focus on the one that actually people actually go to. So that's the rationale for all this. I don't like it any more than you do, right? So I will apologize, but given the freight train we had coming down the tracks at us, this is what I figured is the best we can make in a bad situation. So again, if you're really, really angry, contact Senator Ben Hansen, 4712949. If you can grudgingly accept that this is the best we could do, I'll lay on it. So anyway, September 10th, clerk forwards all this information onto the assessor, right? So what we've done at MIPS, and I'm not selling for MIPS, and I'll get to Vanguard in a moment. So what we've done at MIPS is we've programmed this whole thing. We're going to take all this information in. We're going to have everything sorted out. We'll be able to essentially, when we know what the property tax, the proposed property tax request is for each of those subdivisions, we're going to put it in its own, park it in its own separate database. We're going to hit a button. It's going to produce a PDF. It's going to have every parcel in the county and how what they would have on their postcard. Okay. We're going to take that information, that giant PDF, we're going to forward it on to the state print shop because we have an agreement with them, and they're going to print and sort and mail the postcards. All right. So all that should happen at the county level, the clerk is going to gather a certain amount of information, and it's the name and number of the person that's going to be presenting on behalf of that political subdivision at the joint public hearing. If they have to figure out whether or not they go over the allowable growth percentage. You have to figure, you're gonna have to have what their property tax request is proposed. You forward that information on to the assessor. That information gets input into the system, and everything's gonna take care of itself after that. Okay. Now, from a county board perspective, you need to designate the print service because not everyone is in MIPS County. I get that, and you guys aren't, right? So what will happen, what we'll do, we've got an agreement with the state print shop. That's the printing service that we are using. If a county wants to, that's not a MIPS county, if they want to designate the state print shop, they can piggyback off of our agreement. Right now, as of a couple of days ago, the unit cost for the whole shebang is 52 cents per postcard. Okay. Not happy about it. Now, oh, by the way, you've heard of inflation, you've heard of the supply chain, you've heard of all these things. So I'm telling you, it's 52 cents today. Don't know what it's going to be in September. What else is going to say this? Oh, one other thing I wanted to give you, like behind the scenes sort of picture. So we were talking, Senator Hansen said, I want to see a big pink postcard. We're like, yeah, okay, cool. And I said, you want that to be magenta number 5 or magenta number 6, Senator? And he's like, oh, good point. So the next draft of the bill we got, it said, and the postcard shall be on magenta number 6 cardstock. I'm like, no, that's not going to work. Okay. He said, he's like, John, I want this to be on pink postcards. I said, that's great, but what if they're out of magenta number 5 and we print it on magenta number 6? Are you going to penalize us for that? And he's like, well, that's ridiculous. I'm like, I know, it is ridiculous. Take it out. And we went around and around and finally said, I'll take it out. John, I want you to tell the counties it's got to be on a pink postcard. Okay, that's cool, great. So I'm advising you, please put this on a pink postcard. We have talked to the state print shop, and we've got Pulsar Pink is the postcard that we've selected, I think. Oh, by the way, supply chain, we got an email a couple days ago, they're starting to run out of cardstock. So we told them today, buy 100,000 sheets of Pulsar Pink, and we'll just make sure that we've got that supply. Okay. So anyway, that's all the behind the scenes stuff, which is super exciting. Again, what I want to emphasize is the fact that we are trying to make it so that you have to do as little work as possible. Clerk's going to gather information, forward it on the assessor is going to put it in the system, and we will take care of all the rest of it. MIPS, I've talked to Vanguard. They've been working on this with us since last year. They know what's coming. They know it's a program lift. They're going to be producing, I think, something fairly similar. So, and again, our agreement with the state print shop, you piggyback off of as long. I'm looking at it because since Vanguard County, we'd love to slay this, by the way, but we'll talk about that later. Yeah, you know, Jeff sent me an email yesterday, and I answered all these questions. I mean, I guess you didn't have to come. What's that? Oh, maybe Jeff is on. That's true. So anyway, getting back to all this. By September 10th, that information gets forwarded on the assessor. It gets input into the system. What I'm hoping, I mean, and I think, I mean, we did a test run last year with a couple of pilot counties. What I'm hoping is that once we get the information input, we just go, and then it creates a PDF and we just ship it out to the state print shop. If that's the case, I mean, we could probably get the postcards out, you know, pretty quickly. I mean, 2 or 3 days, 3 days, right, is what they're suggesting. So you probably could have these things in the mail by September 13th. It's my guess, but we'll see. You got a question?
So does the state or the county facilitate the printing? You mentioned both. So you want to
So
go through that again?
we are contracting with, not contracting, we have an agreement with the state print shop, okay? We're just, they're a vendor. We are the customers. NIPS is a customer, and every other county is a customer. And so what's going to happen is the county board is going to designate whoever they want. You can designate Kinkos if you want, that's fine. But if you want to designate the state print shop, you designate them as your printing service. They're going to invoice NACO. We're going to invoice the county. Okay, so that's how that's going to work. And again, as of today, 52 cents a postcard. So I don't want anyone to be shocked. It's like, well, you told me 25 cents. No, it's right now it's 52, but that could go up. And look like you have a question.
I have a question with this to the Vanguard. This is something that I need to, or does Jeff need to initiate this with Vanguard to get. I know the board will designate, then go forward.
Yeah. So what Jeff will do is he'll take the information from you.
Okay.
I hope I would expect, I can't speak for Vanguard, I would expect he puts it into a system. They've got a screen that he puts all this information into, and then they generate the
So I just need
postcard.
to make sure Jeff is on top of this to get this.
Yes, so Jeff, if you're out there, we hope you're on top of this.
So even from afar, Diane's body autos telling you to slow down.
Diane, I can't believe you tell me that after all these years, so. All right, so anyway, that's what's going on with that. We want to make sure you're taken care of. If you have a terrace scan, it's not county here, anyone from Knox. So congratulations. You're also included. You can, and we've talked to your programmers. I don't know how timely they're going to get this done. Sorry, I can't. I mean, they're another company. I don't really have a lot of control over. So that is what we're trying to do to make sure that the logistics of this do not come across your desk. We want to make sure that most of the logistics are being handled by us, our vendor, to make this go smooth. So any questions so far, including Diane?
John, for the designation from the county board, are you guys going to share like the name of the company and how, you know, someone will put it on an agenda, that's
Yeah.
what services. What do you need to say?
Yes, Candace will tell you that.
Well, can you have me repeat the question?
Oh, you want me to repeat the question? So what Sarah would like to, from Burke County, would like to know if there is a particular way that we need to describe the state print shop for purposes of the kind of resolution you might have the county board adopt. Is that?
Is that going to be a resolution or just a motion in the minutes?
I think a motion in the minutes would be adequate.
So we just need to call it one.
So just call it the state print shop? Is that what it's called?
It's the state print
It
shop.
is the state print shop.
State print shop.
Yeah,
That's easy.
it's easy, yeah.
Well, John,
Sir.
even though we write the check, we're right. Include, yeah, when you make a purchase.
If you want to make this John Cannon, that would be great. But, no, so we will be invoiced by the state print shop, and then we will invoice you individually. So Ocho County will be reimbursing NACO, and then we will reimburse the state print shop.
You know, if you want to put in there, you know, so, you know, when the bill comes out, you can put the state print shop via NACO. So then that's all in there. So when we invoice, then that all ties together nicely. That might be a good option.
So good idea, Rick. Thank you.
And then if we all want to track this for the legislative purposes, like it was suggested, one line at 970, do you guys want to put that out? And us all use that? Is that the plan?
I mean, you can if you want. What I can tell you is we're going we're going to get one invoice from the print shop. So we'll know what that cost is.
No, but I mean for our budgets.
Right, for your budgets. I mean, you can if you want. We're going to know what the number is. We're going to know what the gross number is.
I think that's a question for Jeff. Jeff's office, Joe line item.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Sarah's talking about.
We'll make sure that's a standard one, because we're trying to streamline, and so we'll make sure we get that line item. I agree with that. I would love for you guys to have a separate line item, so it's easy for us to go in.
Split between the cost of the card and the postage to the minimum cost of getting that all done. So you see, here's the mailing cost, here's the personal administrative cost to get these things done.
Sure. And so
So there should be two lines.
yeah, and so I guess from your perspective, I mean, so getting information, receiving information from each of the political subdivisions that you've got in Saunders County. What do you expect your time crunch is going to be? And then essentially putting it together and forwarding out to the assessor, right? I mean, I was hoping, and again, hoping, I know we've got that's a time frame here. I was hoping that 5 days was going to be adequate for the clerk's office. And
Wait, you guys gotta remember too, if we're election commissioners, we're overwhelmed at that time, because we're waiting on ballots.
I get that.
Yeah.
And you know, and Patty, while I agree with you 100%,
Yeah,
this is a law.
I
mean,
know,
you
I
don't have-
understand that.
yeah.
I understand that. I'm sitting here thinking about that too, because I'll try to reach out as soon as I can, like, you know, possible, okay, say this is going to affect your name and your number, so that, you know, we got this done, and realize this is the date you guys got to pick.
Right.
You know, and tell them that right off the bat too.
Yeah.
To
So,
make it work. That's what we're all gonna have to do, is just saying, we need this date and we need it. We can't be babysitting you guys, we need it.
Right, and for what it's worth, I've contacted my counterpart at the municipalities, the Nebraska Association of School Boards and Community College Association. I said, hey, look, you know, this information is vital. We need to have it, kind of like we were discussing. We're going to make this presentation, all the presentations related to the postcard available to all of them, so if they want to take a look at it. And again, your own personal relationship you have with you know, schools, cities, community colleges is going to be vital to that as well. And we'll make sure that, I mean, the community colleges, they're multi-county territories, right? We will make sure that they're acutely aware they need to get this information out to all the counties in which they're doing business if their request exceeds the allowable growth percentage.
and when we're at county clerk workshop, if you're able to come, we're going to set a time some side for clerks to kind of navigate this conversation, so we can put some best practices in place and make sure that we have all the resources ready for you as well. Because you guys probably have ideas that we're not even, haven't thought of. So we'll carve some time out, just have that conversation too. So we'll try to make it the best way we can.
Thank you.
Yeah. So by, whoops, it's not doing anything anymore. I'll just go over here. So by September, it's not doing anything.
Jeff, did you provide that to Jeff?
I did not, but we will provide it to you. We'll forward it on to you. So by September 17th, that's when we have to have the postcards out the door, right? And we're starting to look at the joint public hearing. On this slide, it says the county board selects the printing service. I would do that sooner rather than later. I mean, frankly, you know, having an idea as to what print service you're going to use by June, it's probably a really good idea. So, you know, the next few weeks, clerks, I would recommend putting it in front of your board and having them decide who we want to send this to. If they have questions, call me. I'm happy to, you know, kind of go through the ins and outs of what we've got arranged. Again, a lot of this stuff, you know, Jeff's already kind of talked about. You have to, you know, publish notices if you're in a county with over 25,000 people. So, you know, congratulations, she's lucky winner again, Ann. Put it on the county's website. We've got a population in excess of 25,000, so all that good stuff. So here's a postcard sample, and hopefully you can't read the fact that we have a 33% levy on here. So, which would, I mean, that would make me go insane if I saw that as that would definitely get people to come to your meeting. By the way, if you got a 30, not 33% levy. But here's what it's going to look like. So you got a notice of proposed tax increase, like it says. Yes, a lot of this information is really, really hard to read because it's super small print. I mean, we've only got so much space to put this on, so that's a lot of information. But you'll see here that we've got, as the law requires, 2021 assessed value, 2022 assessed value. We've got a little column for the political subdivisions, the 2021 taxes, the estimated tax, and then the estimated change. And it designates hearing 1, 2, or 3. So we've got these hearings here. Hearing 1 is at high school for whatever city. Hearing 2, they say Brown County Courthouse. We don't have to have it in the courthouse. This is just an example. And then hearing 3 is at the community college headquarters. Probably not, it's probably going to be, you know, again, the clerk is the one that's kind of driving where the special joint public hearing is going to be. So, Sarah, if you want to have it at the high school gym, and the school lets you, go for it. If you want to have it in the courthouse, so knock yourself out. That'll be really hard, if, you know, if you've got 100 people that show up for the meeting, but maybe that's a good thing, right? So, anyway, yeah, any questions on this postcard? Yes, ma'am?
You have them all on the same date and time.
Yeah, sure do.
You can do that.
Yes.
Even though the parcel.
Well, and so, so Brown County, we did this as a sample, right? So Brown County, in all likelihood, almost everything's gonna be in Ainsworth except the community college. Community college is gonna be northeast. So, you know, northeast, they're gonna contact you. They're gonna find out when the Madison County hearing is. Ann's gonna say, our hearing's gonna be on whatever date, whatever time. In Brown County, they're probably, it's gonna be City of Ainsworth, Brown County, and whatever the school district is up there. I apologize, Brown County, I'm not familiar with the school districts. And in all likelihood, those are all going to be in Brown County. They'll be wherever the clerk up there decides she wants to have it. And they'll be in the same place, same time. But it has to be after 6 o'clock p.m. I remember, by the way, I remember having a conversation with Senator Hansen, and I said, why does that have to be after 6? He says, well, I don't want, people to miss it because they're at work. I said, so they're gonna miss it because they're at their kid's soccer game? I mean, yeah. What's that? Night shift? Yeah. I mean, well, Troy, if you weren't driving your workers so hard, you had to have night shift. Just let them go.
I have a question about that. Okay, so if I'm just thinking Summers County, Southeast is in 15 counties.
Yep.
And so I know Southeast would definitely be one of them. Okay, and then pick the county, okay, and then you got 3 cities, and I got 5 school districts. So we're only looking at the ones that would hit that mark, right?
Yes.
Okay, so if it's only Southeast Community College that hits that mark, then it's gonna be just the one that we're listing.
It's just the one that you're listing. It's going to go to Lancaster.
So what if all of them hit it? How do you even begin to get something like that?
Because the postcard is going to be done on a per parcel basis. And so that parcel is not going to be in more than one school district. It's not going to be in more than one community college district. It won't be in more than one city, and it won't be in more than one county, I hope. And so at a maximum of 4 political subdivisions will show up in the postcard.
Throw in when you're looking at like doing the joint thing to cover all that, you just pick the one location, then that simplifies the thing in the one date.
You got it.
Got it. Right.
Again, we try to make this as simple as possible,
No, that
and
makes sense now.
yeah, awesome. I'm so happy to hear that. No, seriously, I mean, it's convoluted. I'm not gonna pretend that this is not, kind of a little bit of a bear, but.
The parcel holder can't realistically go to all 5 people. Right, I mean, that was the whole point, like, you're gonna confuse people, like, well, how can I go to all 3 of these meetings when it affects, I'm taxed on all 3 of these entities.
That's true. They're going to have to pick the one they're most outraged about.
Okay, that's what I need here.
Yeah.
Because I will get the phone call. We can do this.
No, you won't, because again, postcard is not going to have your number.
Oh.
Unless you decide you want your number on there for the county. Because what you're going to do, so as a clerk, you're going to get the information, let's say it's from the community college. And when you call Southeast, well, you're not Southeast, you're in Metro, right?
Yeah.
So when you call Metro, you're gonna say, who do you want to get phone calls? Because their number is going on the postcard. And if you don't want any one person, we're just gonna give them the front desk number or whatever it is for Metro. And so, that's just how it's gonna have to be. And so for the county, if you want it to be, you go for it. I would recommend that whoever does your budget, you have them on there, right? Same thing with the city. Is that you, man? Oh, well. So what you want to do is you want to give them Troy Euler's phone number.
428-416-366.
And I think Troy's inviting all of you. Yeah, send everybody to Troy.
But ideally, you are wanting, you've got, like you said, multiple entities that are requiring this. You were basically encouraging them all to visit same date and time?
No, there's no encouraging. Whoever's in Washington County, who has to attend the Washington County hearing, you're telling them where it is. It is you that decides that.
I can't tell Metro to come to. You know
Well,
what I
no,
mean?
you're not, because Metro's headquartered in Omaha.
Well, however.
So, but the Douglas County clerk's gonna tell Metro where it is, how it's gonna be. You're,
They'll let you know,
and everyone that's in Washington County, you're telling how it's gonna be.
but you'll need to know Douglas counties.
Yeah, you'll need to know when
So you have it on your
Douglas
card.
County's hearing is.
Okay.
And again, we're going
And
to,
like the ones that are all in my county, obviously it's gonna be one place.
you're deciding where it
It's
is.
just like,
Yep.
you know, the same days.
So the dates for the meeting, 17th, 28th.
Yeah.
Realistically, you can't even go to.
Well, so what you're going to do is you're going to send out the mail. The question is, so the dates from the 17th to the 28th, mail, you realistically can't do. And it's between the 10th and the 17th is when you're sending out the mail.
No, I know, but you gotta have a postcard on the 10th, you won't have the assessment, so.
So-
Are we gonna be able to get it?
So the postcard, so the assessor gets all the information by the 10th. The assessor has to have the postcard out no later than the 17th.
Right.
And so if the postcard goes out on the 17th, then the earliest you'd be able to have your joint public hearing is the 24th.
But I'm saying,
If you want
it's
to.
really hard to do, 17th.
If you want to, it's 17th, so I think it's.
Oh, yeah.
Information on the 10th.
Yeah, that would be really tough.
Yeah.
But if we're able to turn it around the same day, then yeah, you could if you wanted to have it on the 17th. Not likely, I mean, I honestly, I think most counties, and I mean, probably 70 counties across the state, they're probably gonna say, our joint public hearing is gonna be on the 29th at the high school gym. At 6 o'clock p.m. period, full stop. And that's just probably how it's gonna turn out, because again, you don't know what the turnaround time is with the state print shop. And so you're gonna say, we wanna push that back as far as we can. And so we're gonna have our hearing on,
Here's,
we have questions.
so Jenny.
Oh, yeah. Can you read that?
Yep, they are separate locations. I thought it was one hearing with all political subdivisions headquartered in our county. The school could be separate from the county hearing. Who would make the report of who presented, spoke at the meeting? If separate?
So it's the report is gonna, so that, y'all heard that? So you did not? You were, okay. So the report is going to be made by the clerk or the designee in the county where the hearing is held. So if you're, let's say you've got Washington County and Metro, right? They're headquartered in Douglas. So the Douglas County clerk is going to prepare that report for Metro, whatever Metro presents. If it's the school district that's in Washington, if it's the Blair School District, Barb's going to prepare the report, right? And if it's a school district that's headquartered outside of your county, whoever the county clerk is in that county is going to prepare the report for that school district. And so it's going, here's the thing, there are only going to be 93 reports statewide, because it's going to be based on the county clerk's decision as to when and where the hearing is going to be. They're the ones that organize the meeting, they're the ones that produce the report, or their designee produces the report again. If the county's out of it, if the county's property tax request does not exceed the allowable growth percentage, then you have your designee, and that's why I made like, kind of tongue-in-cheek comment about, just call the school district clerk and say, gotcha, that's you, click. Try and be a little bit nicer to your school district clerk than that, though. That probably would be wise. So, any questions on the postcard? This is what the thing looks like. We actually got this thing right. We sent it to all the political subdivisions that were part of our test run, and we said, does this look right? And they said, well, it's got numbers and it's got words on it. So yeah, looks fine to us. We're like that. They didn't notice that it was a 33% tax that was being levied against every property, which again, that would make me feel included. All right, so we'll move on. So September 17th through 28th, county is responsible for organizing the joint hearing. It has to be held after 6, so we can run into soccer practice. Clerk is required to notify each participating subdivision of the time and date. And again, one of the things that we want to do is want to aggregate all the information at NACO and have that available to you, so that if you've got Metro, when the Douglas County area is, you don't have to call Metro, right? Each participating subdivision has to designate one person to attend the joint public hearing. Again, if you want to make sure it's strong, go for it. Otherwise, I would suggest, who really knows the budget the best? That's the person you want to have make the presentation and, basically give the slings and arrows from the public, whoever shows up to this hearing. The meeting must be held before any of the participating subdivisions file their adopted budget with the auditor. So just FYI, one of the drafts of 1250 this year said that the joint public hearing has to be held before you adopt the budget. And we said, whoa, 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 that ain't gonna work, right? So it's before you file your adopted budget. Now, again, a lot of you will have had your budget hearing well in advance of this joint public hearing. And so a lot of you are saying, well, hold on a second, doesn't this mean that our property tax request is already baked in before the public comes? And that's, true-ish. What you could do is you could have, if you wanted to, I'm not suggesting this, but if you wanted to, you could have a special meeting of the board the day after the public hearing and decide, okay, well, this is the budget we're going to adopt. People were outraged about whatever, so we're gonna take this item out. You could do that. That's up to you. I don't presume to know what the best result for that is. And then the county may hold their regular budget meeting, regular budget meeting prior to the joint public hearing. I think a lot of you'll probably have your budget baked in by the time it's the public hearing. And that's just because of the nature of the compressed time frame that we have. Any questions so far?
John, can the public hearing be on the same day, not the same time, but the same day as the regular meeting?
I don't see why not.
Repeat the question.
So Dave's question is, can the joint public hearing be on the same day and the same time, not the same time, as the regular hearing? And the answer I think is yes. You're looking at me funny, why?
For the adopted budget or the budget hearing?
For the budget hearing.
Budget hearing, no, it can't be, it's separate, that you're adopting the budget. That.
It's a separate hearing, it's not the same hearing, but it can be the same day.
Separate meetings, so.
So you would have your joint public hearing.
When we were told that, for the budget hearing, they has to be separate than the adopting the budget, it's different, you can't do it all the same day.
No, he's saying is he wants to have this budget hearing the same day.
Yeah, okay.
Those two,
Not-
yeah, not the day to adopt.
Good question, Dave.
Is that what you're saying? No.
Sometimes people do this.
Right, and that's, you can't do that. These things, it can be done at this meeting.
You're right, we should cut down some of these hearings. And again, the whole thought for doing the report is that we'll have an idea as to which of these hearings we should get rid of.
John?
Sir?
Is the 17th,
Yes.
What was the question?
I can't hear you very well. Yes.
You can't probably have one of these on Saturday.
Probably not. Yeah, so the question was, I can repeat the question.
But no, 4 of the 10 days.
Yeah.
17th and 20th, because 17th and 18th is Saturday, Sunday, 24th, 25th is Saturday. So we're down to 6 days.
Yep, that's true. Yep.
She was talking about having them on the same board. Would you want to do that though? Because then you have people who are in that meeting who just kind of stick around and maybe what they go to that meeting. And I'm in my board. Yeah, but you want to get true accurate reading of who's showing up to these joint meetings. I would them on a separate day, because otherwise your numbers might be easier than what you want to do.
All right, so after the joint public hearing, the clerk shall prepare a report that's going to include a little bit of information. It's going to have names of representatives of the organization that's there. So if the Plaid Institute shows up, the Americans for Prosperity shows up, I would include that. And here's the reason why, folks. So, again, what I've described is we're making a bet here. We're betting that we're gonna have the same number of people that show up to the joint public hearing, show up to our budget hearings, and our property tax request hearings, right? I know for a fact, Senator Ben Hansen he's aligned himself very, very closely with Plaid Institute, Americans for Prosperity. They don't like taxes, they don't like raising taxes, and I'm pretty sure that they're going to get the word out and say, you need to attend this hearing, right? And so I think it would be worth our while to say, who are you, who are you with, are you representing anybody? If someone says, I'm with Americans for Prosperity, I would write that down, because I think that shows it's okay, here's an organization which is kind of pushing these people to this, to this meeting. I think that would be a worthwhile thing for us to account for. So I'm just going to suggest, you don't have to, but they do have to identify if they're representing or with an organization. So I would ask that question while you're there. And then the name and address of any individual that wants to speak for a joint public hearing, you gotta have that as well. And again, this comes right down to, we wanna take attendance. We wanna know how many people are showing up for this one, as opposed to all of our other hearings. And in one way or the other, we're going to get rid of one of these hearings, at least. So, I think this would help in that regard. So after the joint public hearing, governing body has to pass an ordinance or a resolution to set the property tax request, and it has to include a whole bunch of stuff. Jeff had this in his presentation. I've got it here. Has to have a name of the political subdivision, all this other stuff. Has to include the following statements. I'm not going to read through it. It just makes my eyes glaze over. So anyway, a couple tips. Don't wait. Like I said before, have the board determine what printing service they want to use sometime in June, right? So that we know. You can let us know if you're in Nips County, you can let us know that you want to jump on this thing with State Print Shop. If you're a non-Nips County, you can let us know that you want to piggyback off of that. We're happy to do that for you. Also take attendance, because don't just take attendance at this hearing. Consider having a head count of people that are going to be at your budget hearing and at your property tax request hearing, just so we can compare. We can put that information in front of the legislature at some later date. So let's see. September 30th, as you know, we moved the date for filing the budget from September 20th to September 30th. And then the cost share for the postcards. I had a few questions about this. The cost of the postcards is going to be divided proportionally among the participating subdivisions. The initial cost is borne by the county. It was out of county general. I believe Jeff said out of general miscellaneous, I believe. And when we say divided proportionally among participating political subdivisions, I mean, I'm thinking on Washington County because that's where Ben Hanson's from, right? So I gave him the example. I said, well, as it stands now, if it was just Washington County and the city of Arlington, the way the law used to read was they split the cost 50-50. He's like, well, that's not right. I said, you're kidding. And so what we want to do is we want to have it proportional. And so I got a little example in here, Anonymous County, which is Washington County, that's 13,665 parcels, and city of Townsville, which is actually Blair, I think, has 3,500 parcels. And so it kind of gives you a little bit of indication how you would split that up. Essentially, you would say, here's a unit cost for the postcards, 52 cents or 50 cents-ish. And then so you essentially divide that cost and assign that to each political subdivisions for the number of parcels. And then obviously outside of Blair, that's what I'm using, Washington County is going to pick up the whole cost because they're the only person that's on those postcards outside of the city of Blair. Clear as mud?
Why is your example have 50 cents for the county cost and 25 cents?
So, all right.
Townsville cost.
So the per unit cost for each postcard is 50 cents. Total cost for the county is $13,665, or 13,665 postcards times 50 cents. Townsville, which is Blair, will reimburse the county $889. The number of parcels that they're going to be on, the number of postcards they'll be on, times 25 cents, which is half of the per unit cost per postcard.
Also, the county's picking up half of their.
Yeah, because the county's on that postcard too, right?
In this example.
In this example. And again, I mean, I thought I was being clever by having an honest county, the city of Townsville, all that, and Barb figured me right out, so. All right, any questions on this slide? And by the way, if you got 3 political subdivisions that are on the postcard for a particular parcel, we have to do more math. I mean, it's about 17 cents per postcard. If you got 4, then it's about 12.5 cents per postcard. You're going to bill the political subdivisions to make sure they, fork over the dough.
It's just the school,
If the school is the only one that's producing the postcard, let's say the school has, 6,000 parcels, right? They don't have all the parcels in Burke County. They're going to pick up the entire cost. You're going to pay for it initially, and you're going to bill them for the entire cost.